In the year 2389, the Unity Point space station floated silently above a glowing blue gas giant, spinning slowly at the edge of the Orion Arm. The station, sleek, silver, and shaped like a ring, was Earth's proudest achievement in diplomacy. It served as the meeting place for the Galactic Assembly, a council of dozens of alien civilizations. And today, Captain Jack Voss stood at the heart of it. Jack wore a simple gray uniform with the Earth insignia on his shoulder. Tall and composed, with sharp eyes and a steady voice, he walked through the station's halls with purpose. Though only 37, he had seen war before and hoped he'd never see it again. As he entered the assembly hall, the room lit up with color. Delegates of every shape and size sat in floating chairs or hovered behind glass domes. Some had scales, some had fur, others were made of light or gas. The hall buzzed with languages and whispers, with blinking translator drones fluttering in the air. Humans were new here, only a decade into galactic politics, and still treated like awkward guests at a table too large. Jack stepped onto the central platform. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Honored delegates," he began, "I come today with a warning. The Dravari Empire is on the move. Their ships have crossed into restricted space. Surveillance shows mass production of new dreadnoughts. We believe they are preparing for war." A low murmur passed through the room. From a glowing throne at the far end, a tall insect-like creature clicked its mandibles and translated, "Captain Voss, the Assembly appreciates Earth's concern. But you humans see threats where there are none. The Dravari have always expanded. They enjoy drills and displays. It does not mean war." Jack took a breath. "With respect, this is different. I've seen the data. I've spoken to refugees from the border colonies. The Dravari are not preparing a show. They are preparing a strike." A floating laughter filled the air. Deep, guttural, and cold. A new hologram shimmered into view, tall, armored, and fierce. The image of High Strategist Cormal, commander of the Dravari Empire, filled the center of the hall. "Human," Cormal said, voice like cracking stone, "you mistake strength for threat. You fear what you do not understand. Diplomacy is your shield, because you have no sword." Several delegates chuckled. Others looked away. Jack didn't flinch. Perhaps. But swords rust. Words last. Cormal leaned forward in his image. "Then let your words protect you when the stars burn." The hologram faded. Silence followed. No one defended Jack. No one voted to act. After the meeting, Jack sat alone in a quiet corner of Unity Point's observatory. He stared out at the gas giant below, its surface swirling with blues and purples. A young aide approached him. "Captain, we received a secure message from the Volari outpost on the border." Jack opened the file. His eyes narrowed. The message was short. "Dravari fleet detected. 42 ships. Full combat configuration. Moving toward neutral zone. Request immediate response." Jack closed the message and looked back at the stars. "They laughed today," he said softly. "But tomorrow, they won't be laughing." The next morning, Unity Point drifted quietly in orbit. From the outside, the station looked calm. But inside, tension spread like a silent storm. Captain Jack Voss stood before a glowing display in the war room, reading the same report over and over again. The Dravari fleet was no longer just a threat. It was moving 42 warships, heading toward a neutral zone protected by assembly law. Jack turned to his aide, Commander Eli Grant. "Any updates from the Volari outpost?" "Still no response," Eli said, his voice low. "They stopped transmitting 10 minutes after the alert." Jack clenched his jaw. The Volari were peaceful traders, barely armed. If the Dravari attacked them, it would be a clear act of war. He straightened his back. "We bring this to the assembly. Now." Minutes later, the assembly hall filled again. Delegates returned to their seats, curious and irritated at the emergency meeting called by a human. Many of them still smirked when Jack stepped onto the central platform. "This is no longer a warning," Jack said. "The Dravari fleet is in motion. Neutral space is being violated. One of our outposts has gone dark." The floating insectoid delegate from Vecthal responded in a dry tone. "Are you suggesting we act based on a message from traitors? The Volari are not military. They may have misunderstood what they saw." Jack held up a projection of the sensor data. The signal came from a secure channel. It includes ship IDs and weapon scans. "This is not a misunderstanding." A long-necked creature from the MWR coalition waved a tentacle. "Even if the Dravari crossed a border, it may be a patrol or a drill. We should send observers, not armies." Jack's voice grew sharper. "If we delay, lives will be lost. This isn't just about Earth. This is about the law that holds this galaxy together. The Dravari are testing us. If we do nothing, We tell them we're weak. Before anyone could answer, the lights in the hall dimmed. A red alert flared across the room. Emergency signals flooded the comms. A station officer rushed to Jack. "Captain, we're receiving distress calls. 3 border colonies, 1 Volari, 2 independent, under attack. Dravari ships confirmed." Gasps echoed in the chamber. A giant, water-dwelling alien glowed blue with stress. "They've actually done it. They attacked first." And yet, no one moved. The assembly chair, an ancient being with crystal-like skin, spoke calmly. "We require full review before we act. Let us gather all facts. A response will take time." Jack stared at the chair in disbelief. "Time? We don't have time. The Dravari just declared war, and you're debating." The chair did not answer. The meeting was dismissed. Later that day, Jack stood alone in his quarters. Earth had no official support. The assembly would not act. Even after open attacks, they hesitated, afraid to risk their own fleets. He looked out the window. The stars were still the same, distant, silent, and cold. His comms buzzed. Eli's voice came through. "Sir, Earth Command is waiting. They're asking if we stand down or fight." Jack didn't hesitate. "Tell them we stand. Prepare the fleet. Begin evacuation of Unity Point civilians. Alert the allies who will still listen." Eli was silent for a moment. Then, "Yes, sir." Jack ended the call and exhaled slowly. This wasn't the path he wanted. Diplomacy had failed. The assembly had failed. Now, it was up to him and those who believed in Earth's courage. He opened a private message to his team. "We hoped for peace, but peace must be defended. The Dravari brought war to our doorstep. We will not run from it." As he sent the message, Jack looked again toward the stars. Somewhere out there, Cormel was already moving. But so was he. The news spread fast, too fast for many to believe. The Dravari Empire had launched its attacks, striking 3 peaceful colonies in the neutral zone. The destruction was complete. All communications from the Volari outpost had gone silent. No survivors had been found. Floating debris fields marked what had once been thriving trade hubs. At Unity Point, emergency lights glowed red along the quiet corridors. Civilian ships undocked one after another, forming long evacuation lines towards safer zones. The once busy diplomatic station now echoed with silence as ambassadors and staff hurried to leave. The age of talk was ending. Captain Jack Voss stood on the command deck, eyes fixed on the holographic map hovering in front of him. Red dots marked enemy movements. Blue dots marked Earth's few ready forces. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but not out of options. Commander Eli Grant stood beside him. "Our fleet is en route from Mars Command. ETA 6 hours. Right now, we've got 2 destroyers and a patrol ship guarding the station." Jack nodded. Not enough to stop a full invasion, but enough to delay it. Eli looked at him. "You're thinking about fighting here?" Jack nodded. "If we run from Unity Point, we lose the message. This station represents peace. If we abandon it without a fight, we tell the galaxy that Earth never believed in it." Eli hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Then we fight." Minutes later, Jack activated the secure comms channel. "To all Allied ships still in range, this is Captain Jack Voss. Unity Point is under threat. Earth will hold the line. Any willing allies, join us now. This may be your only chance to stand before war swallows us all." Only silence followed. Jack turned back to the map. "Prepare defenses. Lock down all outer sections. Bring rail cannons online." Then, a ping. One small green dot appeared on the map. The Thalix had responded. A slow-moving but heavily armed cruiser from the Orovian League dropped out of warp. Its captain, a wide, coral-skinned alien named Harlewin, appeared on-screen. "You were right, Captain Voss," Harlewin said in a deep, gravelly voice. "We watched too long. We'll fight beside you now." Soon after, another signal arrived. Then a third. A coalition was forming, small but real. Not enough to win a war, but enough to hold a line. Just in time. "Multiple enemy signatures detected," cried the sensor officer. "Dravari ships dropping out of warp, 6 total." Jack stood tall. "All hands, battle stations." The enemy ships emerged from the darkness like steel monsters. Their hulls were sharp and black, built for fear. They didn't speak. They didn't warn. They opened fire. Unity Point shook. Lights flickered. The station's shields took the first hit. "Return fire," Jack ordered calmly. "Target their lead ship. Push them back." The battle lit up the void. Blue beams and red blasts crossed the darkness. The Thalix cruiser moved in with heavy cannons, tearing into a Dravari scout. One of Earth's destroyers took damage, but held its ground. The station's rail cannons fired with deadly accuracy. Jack moved between officers, giving clear orders. He had fought before, and it showed. His focus kept the crew steady. But the Dravari were strong. Their ships circled like wolves. Suddenly, a direct hit rocked Unity Point. The lights went out for 3 full seconds. Then backup systems kicked in. Smoke filled part of the deck. A young technician lay injured by a fallen beam. Jack knelt beside him. "You're going to be all right." "Medics!" Another officer yelled. "Enemy boarding ships incoming. They're trying to take the station." Jack stood up fast. "Seal all access hatches. Defense teams to levels 3 through 5. We do not let them set foot inside." The battle raged on. Outside, one Dravari ship exploded, torn apart by a combined strike from the Thalix and Earth Destroyer. Inside, Jack personally led a defense team through smoke-filled halls, repelling a boarding attempt. Blasters fired. Alarms wailed. Jack moved like a soldier once more. After nearly an hour of combat, the remaining Dravari ships began to retreat. 2 of them, heavily damaged, limped into warp space. The others followed. Silence returned. Unity Point was still standing, but scarred. Fires burned on 2 decks. Over a dozen were injured. 3 were dead. But the station held. Jack stood on the command deck again, breathing heavily. The crew watched him. He spoke calmly. "Today, Earth defended more than metal and wires. We defended what this place stands for." One by one, the officers returned to their stations. The map still showed many red dots. The war was just beginning. But now, the galaxy had seen something new. Humans didn't just talk. They acted. And they were not alone. The smoke had barely cleared from the battle at Unity Point, but the war had already spread. Within days, news arrived of 3 more attacks, this time deeper into neutral space. Small planets burned. Trade routes vanished. The Dravari Empire wasn't hiding anymore. They were claiming territory, fast and without mercy. Captain Jack Voss knew he didn't have time to rest. In Unity Point's dim-lit war room, he stood over a table-sized holomap with Commander Eli Grant and Captain Harlewin of the Orovian League. "The Dravari are pushing toward the Arden Belt," Jack said, tracing a path across the glowing stars. "If they take that, they'll control half the trade routes in this quadrant." Harlewin nodded, arms crossed. "And the Assembly still refuses to act. They send words, not ships." Jack didn't look up. "Then we use ships." Eli pointed to a narrow corridor between asteroid fields. "If we move fast, we can cut off their supply line here. They won't expect us to strike so soon." Jack nodded. "That's our move. We don't match their numbers, but we can outthink them." The next few days were full of motion. Unity Point became a command center for a growing coalition. More allies joined, not many, but enough to matter. Small fleets from Earth, the Orovian League, and the Elysians, a quiet but fierce race of winged humanoids, rallied to Jack's call. Each commander brought their own ships, styles, and scars. Most had lost colonies, friends, or family to the Dravari. Now, they wanted to strike back. The plan was simple. Hit a Dravari fuel convoy in transit. Disrupt their advance. Make them bleed, even if only a little. Jack stood aboard the ESS Horizon, Earth's newest flagship. It wasn't the biggest, but it was fast, and it carried a full tactical AI system. From its bridge, he coordinated the mission. The attack began just as the Dravari convoy entered the pass. Jack's forces, hidden behind the thick rocks of the Arden Belt, waited until the last second. "Now," Jack said. Dozens of ships burst from hiding. Laser beams and ion blasts lit the darkness. The convoy panicked. Their escorts were too slow to respond. In minutes, 3 Dravari freighters were destroyed. 2 others fled into deep space. But it wasn't without cost. One Orovian ship took a full missile strike. It broke apart in silence. A small Elysian fighter was lost in a flash of fire. Names were called over the comms. Not all answered. After the dust settled, Jack spoke to the survivors. "You all fought with courage. We hurt them today. They'll feel this. But we also lost good people. And we'll lose more before this is over." The fleet returned to Unity Point. Repairs began. Crews mourned. But their will hardened. That night, Jack stood alone in the station's observation dome. Stars stretched in every direction. Peaceful. Eternal. But out there, war was boiling. Eli approached quietly. "You did what you had to. We gave them their first real loss." Jack didn't move. "I became a diplomat to stop war, not wage it. Now I'm giving orders that get people killed." Eli's voice was steady. "You didn't start this, Jack. Cormal did. And if you weren't here, a lot more people would be dead. Jack turned to him. We're not just fighting ships, Eli. We're fighting fear, arrogance, and silence. The Assembly doesn't believe in us. Cormel thinks we're weak. Every move we make now, it has to prove them wrong. At that moment, a message arrived. An alien race that had remained neutral until now, the Zerani, masters of stealth technology, had sent a transmission. We see now. You do not run. You lead. The Zerani stand with you. Jack read the message twice. Then he smiled, faint but real. They're starting to understand. The coalition was still small. The war far from over. But piece by piece, Jack was building something stronger than fear. He was building belief. The war had reached its peak. Planets were falling. Supply lines were under attack. The Galactic Assembly still refused to take sides, watching from their high towers as more systems burned. Captain Jack Voss knew they were out of time. The Dravari were preparing for a final strike, a massive fleet gathering in the Vortex Cluster, a region filled with mining debris and swirling radiation storms. The cluster was considered too dangerous for war. But the Dravari didn't care about danger. They saw opportunity. With the cluster as cover, they planned to launch a direct assault on Earth and its remaining allies. Jack gathered his commanders in Unity Point's war room. The holographic map lit up with red enemy dots, far outnumbering the blue ones. His eyes were sharp, focused. We can't beat them head-on, he said. But we can outmaneuver them. Harlewin, the Orovian captain, growled, that region will tear ships apart. No shields, low visibility. It's suicide. Jack nodded. For them, yes. But we've studied the cluster. We've mapped the debris fields, the radiation bursts. The Horizon's AI has run simulations. If we lead them in and control the path, we can turn the environment against them. Commander Eli stepped forward. You want to lure the fleet into the cluster? Yes, Jack said, and trap them there. The plan was bold, risky, but it was the only chance. Over the next 2 days, Earth's fleet prepared. The Zerani deployed their stealth ships ahead of time, planting mines and signal jammers in the heart of the cluster. The Elysians flew scout patterns to track Dravari movement. Every second counted. Jack stood aboard the ESS Horizon, watching as the stars shifted. Behind him, the crew worked in silence. They trusted him now, not just as a diplomat, but as a leader in war. Signal sent, Eli said. The Dravari think we're running. Just as planned. Within hours, the enemy responded. Dozens of Dravari ships chased after the retreating fleet. They followed blindly, confident in their numbers. Jack led the charge into the Vortex Cluster, navigating through massive chunks of broken rock and clouds of glowing radiation. The battle began with confusion. The Dravari expected open space, but found chaos. Their scanners failed. Their formations broke. Zerani mines exploded silently, ripping through 2 cruisers. A shockwave from a radiation flare took out another. Jack's voice came through the command channel. Now, cut them off. From 3 sides, the Allied fleet reappeared, forming a triangle around the enemy. They struck fast and hard. The Dravari, trapped and disoriented, couldn't respond with their usual precision. Cormal's flagship finally appeared, massive and dark, sitting like a beast among the rocks. Jack locked eyes with its glowing image on the screen. Open a channel, Jack said. Cormal's face filled the screen calm, confident, but slightly surprised. You led us into a storm, human, he said. And here you will drown. Jack didn't flinch. You brought this war, Cormal. And now you're going to watch it end. They cut the signal. Jack gave the final order. All ships converge on the flagship. In this, the battle reached its height. Explosions lit up the debris field. One Allied ship spun out and crashed into a drifting asteroid. Another was cut in half by a Dravari beam. But still, Jack's forces pressed on. They struck with precision, using the chaos to their advantage. Finally, after hours of relentless fighting, the Dravari flagship took a critical hit to its core. It shuddered, sparked, and then erupted in a silent flash of light. Cormal's empire was broken. The remaining Dravari ships fled. Some were destroyed trying to escape the cluster. Others vanished into the darkness, their unity shattered. On the Horizon's bridge, the crew sat in stunned silence. Then cheers erupted. Some wept. Some stood in silence, staring at the stars. Jack didn't speak at first. He walked to the window and looked out into the wreckage. We didn't just win a battle, he said quietly. We proved we belong here. Eli stepped beside him. And we did it without becoming them. Jack nodded. That matters. Later, Jack walked through the medical bay. He thanked every injured crew member. He wrote personal notes to the families of the fallen. Victory, he knew, came at a price. That night, a final message arrived. From the Galactic Assembly, we recognize Earth's leadership. The Assembly offers full support to your efforts to restore peace. Jack read the message, then turned it off. They had come too late. Silence returned to the stars. The Vortex Cluster, once a deadly storm of radiation and metal, had become a graveyard for the Dravari fleet. The wreckage floated endlessly, ships torn in half, engines still glowing faintly. Among the debris, Earth's flag flew from the whole of the ESS horizon, now marked with fresh battle scars but still standing strong. Captain Jack Voss sat quietly in the command chair, eyes fixed on the main display. The crew around him was tired, bruised, but alive. Their silence wasn't fear, it was the silence of relief. The war, at last, was over. A soft tone broke the quiet. Commander Eli Grant stepped forward. Transmission from Unity Point, sir. The assembly has arrived. Jack nodded. Put it through. The image of the assembly hall appeared, this time, fully present. Dozens of alien delegates filled the space, no longer laughing or ignoring Earth's words. At the center stood the crystal-skinned assembly chair. Captain Jack Voss, the chair said with a solemn voice, on behalf of the Galactic Assembly, we recognize your leadership, your sacrifice, and the role Earth has played in ending this war. Jack stood before the holoscreen. His uniform was torn. His face carried the weight of every decision he'd made. But his voice was calm. We did what had to be done. Not for glory. Not for power, but because someone had to stand when others stayed silent. A murmur of agreement echoed through the hall. Even the Vecthal and MYR coalition, who once mocked Earth, bowed their heads. The chair continued, we offer Earth a permanent seat on the High Council. Your actions have proven your place in this galaxy. Jack looked at the faces of his crew. He thought of the fallen, of the diplomats who believed in peace, of the soldiers who never came home. We accept, he said, but let it mean more than a seat. Let it mean a change. The next time peace is threatened, don't wait for war to remind you of its value. The assembly went silent. Then, one by one, delegates placed their symbols of unity on the record. A formal vote. Earth's seat was confirmed. Later, back at Unity Point, the station was alive again, not with war, but with rebuilding. Engineers repaired damage. Diplomats returned. The banners of Earth, Orovian, Elysian, and Zerani ships flew side by side in the docking bays. Jack walked through the observation deck, hands behind his back. The stars outside were quiet, unchanged by all the chaos that had passed. But inside, the galaxy had changed forever. Eli joined him, holding 2 steaming cups. Thought you might want this, he said, handing Jack one. Jack took the drink, sipped, then smiled. Tastes like Earth. They stood side by side, watching peace slowly take root. Any thoughts on what's next? Eli asked. Jack took a long breath. No more war rooms. No more command chairs. I've asked for a post on Earth. I'll train new diplomats. People who believe in peace but aren't afraid to defend it. Eli smiled. They'll learn from the best. Jack nodded slowly. They'll learn from everyone who stood when it mattered. A chime interrupted them. A message played on the station speakers. To all citizens of the Galactic Assembly, the war is over. Peace is restored. Let this day mark a new beginning. People clapped. Others cried. The pain hadn't vanished, but hope had returned. Jack raised his cup in a quiet toast. To the ones who didn't make it, and to the future they made possible. As the stars stretched quietly beyond the glass, Captain Jack Voss closed his eyes for a moment. The diplomat. The warrior. The leader. He had done what no one thought possible. He had earned their respect, not with weapons, but with courage.